briefly skim through it, and if you have questions, you can surely ask. Permits overall for the year 2018 were up, but that's total permits. What really went up last year was fence permits, which falls into the miscellaneous category. Man, in the 3 years I've been here, I've never issued so many fence permits. So single-family housing is consistent with what we had a year ago. Fees were up just a couple $1,000, with the overall construction costs up by a little over, just short of $1 million, $800,000. And primarily that's just due to the actual construction materials involved. Can't say that homes are any bigger than previous years. It's fairly consistent, but it's just the construction costs in and of themselves. Pretty much, and one thing that's maybe a little bit misleading, and I will make this correction next year, I just didn't catch it in time, is under the multifamily dwellings. It's showing that there's actually 5, which is incorrect. Multifamily dwellings, I should probably just only say apartments, so to speak, where in the 2018 year-to-date, also the multifamily also includes duplexes, which we actually had 3 duplexes. They technically should probably fall under the single-family housing instead of multifamily housing. But we did have 2 apartment permits taken out this year. But I will make that change next year, which in that case, if we would include the 3 duplexes that went up, would bring our total up to 22 single-family dwellings. So anyway, that was just kind of my bad.
You could throw another category in there if you want.
And a person truly could, absolutely. Yep. To include duplexes and townhouses, those kind of things. So, but anyway, overall costs, our fees, that revenue that we took in was down substantially compared to last year. But so were the construction costs, and you can see that on the totals on both charts in front of you on page 1. Just flipping over to the next page under the commercial 10-year construction history. We just did not have a lot going on this year in the commercial environment at all. The projects that did take place were relatively small. It's just kind of the way it goes. So, but you can see what the 10-year construction history is in both the single-family dwelling and the commercial. 19, I guess for the last couple of years we're consistent, but we're down in what we've had in the previous years in the single-family housing area. The next page, page 3, I believe it is, just shows the residential fees and the residential construction values for the previous 10 years. That's all you're seeing on that page is just a comparison of residential costs and fees that were taken in. The next page, which is kind of a graph in light brown, is your commercial fees and construction valuations of the previous 10 years in the graphs.
Commercial 2016, was that Noran?
Yes,
That was Noran.
exactly, it was.
Hey Greg, I'm not trying to throw you a curveball because I don't want anything right now, but down the road, what I'd kind of like to see is to note how, maybe it's not even you either, but note houses that are now falling off out of the 5-year, now they go into full taxation.
It's, and that would take a lot of work to find out what's falling off, because it is actually on the assessor's page.
Okay.
You go to, so when I do keep a running tab of all of the tax abatements, 5-year tax abatements that are turned in, and I keep that up to date every time we submit to the council, I update my running list. From there, it goes to the courthouse. The courthouse, whenever they process it, actually puts it on the assessor's page. And for me to go back 5 years, because I don't know, the only way I'm gonna know if they fall off is if the tax, or if the courthouse takes them off.
Well, why couldn't you just take your 5-year-old list and go, these 7 come off?
I suppose I possibly could,
I would think you.
but I don't know when, because just because we approve them here and it goes to the courthouse, it starts whenever the courthouse implements it. Like anything that I've turned in since last fall, and I'm just gonna use like from August through January of this year, never even gets put onto the assessor's page until after February. So I don't know, when exactly they put them on.
Okay.
So,
Maybe if you.
but I do
give
keep it
us the
running.
numbers by year, and then we would know roughly that 7's gonna fall off, or 10's
Yeah,
gonna fall off.
and a person could do
So
that.
we know how many are
Yeah,
Well, because we're starting to benefit from it now.
right.
Right.
Now,
I was gonna say,
That's all I'm getting
there
at.
are ones
Sure.
that fell off yesterday.
Sure.
Exactly. We're starting to benefit back now in full tax.
and I could actually just add another column on my Excel, that program that I created to keep a running list to show the end date.
That's what
It'll show approximately what year they're gonna fall off.
Approximate end date would be good to know.
Absolutely.
So,
Because we're not looking for whether it was last
sure,
September or this February.
sure, I could easily do that. I'll just add another column on my Excel program. That'll be easy enough to keep track of, so.
And I don't wanna, excuse me just a minute, Greg, but that 5 or 7 year program that we started, what was that, 5 years ago?
For the houses it was.
To the
For houses, it was
That
around-
puppy's working.
That's
Oh,
what I'm saying.
I mean, it is working.
That's what I'm saying.
absolutely, it's working.
There has been one meeting or so, I don't know, we're at 2 or 3. Every meeting we have, there isn't some new people that's on that list for their housing.
I've got 2 more in my office right
It's
now.
one of the best programs I think we've ever enacted.
In fact, I take calls on a, I don't wanna say weekly or basis, but on a regular basis where people are considering building a new home and they have heard that we have a tax abatement program in place. And then so I enlighten them what it is and tell them how it works, et cetera, et cetera. Get calls on a very regular basis. And something I'm just started doing to kind of help people along, when I do the final inspection, that's when I leave the application at the house for the people to fill out and turn in. And that I've been doing since I started, but what I've just started doing, I fill out all the detailed information with the exception of the date, because it asks for the address, the legal description, the date that they filled it out, the cost, I let them put that in there, and their signature at the bottom. I fill out all the other detailed information, so all they have to do is fill out about 2 things. I put the legal in, the address of the property, why it qualifies for the tax abatement program, et cetera. I fill out all of the non-essential stuff, but it is essential stuff. They just don't have to look for it. Put a date and sign it and money
That's good.
in it, and they're good to go. Turn it in. And then the last page is some of the other stuff, and it surely does not include everything. Notices of abatements that I've mailed out in the year 2018, which is pretty self-explanatory. It does not talk about any of the complaints that come in on a daily basis, and I tried keeping track of it, but it's just next to impossible to keep how many complaints or phone calls or whatever that come into my office every day. I just kind of quit doing it because I couldn't keep up. So it was taking more time for me to fill out the information than it was to keep. It just wasn't worth the time, so. Any questions?
Yeah, I got one, and I wanna go back to these apartments. We've worked doggone hard for the last 4 or 5 years on housing projects. And I took a look at this and about fell off the chair, because of those people that moved into those apartments came from out of town. And we're sitting here trying to get better housing, and we're sitting here trying to increase our population in this town. And somewhere along the line, those figures need to be brought out, in
Yeah.
my opinion,
Yep. Yep.
because that's a real progress. I mean,
Oh,
and we've worked hard on it. Everybody's worked hard on that.
we have, and
And
kudos.
the other thing that's encouraging as of last I heard anyway, that there's still a demand, they're waiting in line to get in those apartments.
Yep,
Sign up sheet.
yep,
Now, if all that's true, we need to get that word out some way and
Yep.
market this town.
and I think you're accurate on the 85 percentile, being out-of-town people, grabbing some of these new apartments, from the
That's
developers.
a real increase.
Yep, from the developers I talked to, they've all indicated most of the occupants of the new apartments, are all from out of town.
Exactly.
You know, and kudos to, the developers of these apartment buildings that are willing to stick the money and time and effort into putting in up new apartments.
And the last I heard, we've got just a little over 40 brand new ones that are under construction right now.
Yep. There's 38 in the new building that's going up right at the moment. There's 38 apartments in there, so. And I was just in it last week, and they're coming along nicely,
Yeah.
so.
But I wanna get that word out, Greg,
Sure.
because that's how we get people.
Yep. Perfect.
Okay.
Any other questions that I can field for anybody?
What quadrant of the town are you inspecting sidewalks this year?
You brought up, here just a couple months ago along Business 75, and, that has been taken care of. I sat down and I wanted to have a plan in place as far as where sidewalks should be going or possibly could go, which I have developed a map on that area, would be a good location for the sidewalks. All the businesses south of Dairy Queen have been sent a letter of notification. I have fielded some phone calls on that, all of which at this point have all been positive, and that they're willing to put them in. But there are also some businesses that have not contacted me either, so. But I hope to come this spring, work in conjunction with each business and develop an exact area. I wanna stay with some consistency with where the sidewalk is placed from Dairy Queen all the way south. But I know there's gonna be obstacles along the way that we may have to change the route slightly because of obstacles and or utilities or something that's just not movable. As far as residential sidewalks, I'm sure I'll be fielding a phone call here this spring from Precision Concrete Cutters out of Minnesota. And I'll be figuring out an area where I can have them work, and I haven't looked at an area of town yet on that. And as far as residential sidewalks, I guess I field those calls when they come in, I look at them, and I make contact with the property owners along the way, so.
Okay, any other questions for Greg? Thanks, Greg.
Thank you,
Appreciate
everybody.
it. Anything else?
Motion to
Motion
adjourn.
to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion